On May 24, 1985, a woman was found in a ditch. She was barely alive, no identification, only known as Jane Doe. Was finally identified and her children got a call none of them ever expected.
On May 24, 1985, a school teacher on the way to work found an injured and unconscious woman in a ditch in Newton, Baker County, Georgia. The woman, who had sustained severe head injuries, was still alive. She succumbed to her brutal injuries in the hospital. Unable to track her identity, the community of Newton started referring to her as Baker County Jane Doe. Years went by, but no one could identify the woman. It was not until 2023 when Baker County Jane Doe was finally identified. What had happened to her? How did the officials identify her after all these years? Welcome to Cold Case Files, where we bring to you the stories of America's notorious cold cases. Today, we are looking into the heart-wrenching story of Baker County Jane Doe, who has finally been identified after 37 years. But first, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please hit the subscribe and like buttons. Now, without any further ado, let's reveal the mystery. The place of picturesque abundance, Baker County is home to about 28,000 people. It offers a plethora of natural recreational facilities for residents and tourists alike. Known for its rich cultural history, Baker County houses generational families. Providing the lowest cost of living in Florida, Baker County is the first choice of families. Its proximity to major cities and higher institutions of learning makes education and employment easily accessible. Baker County boasts a full-fledged holistic lifestyle. This is where today's story begins. One fine morning of May 24, 1985, a school teacher was going to work, driving along Highway 91 in Baker County, Georgia. It was a rural outpost approximately 200 miles south of Atlanta. The school teacher pulled over after noticing a body in the ditch on the west side of the road. It was a woman. She was unconscious and looked badly injured. On closer inspection, she seemed to be barely breathing. Nonetheless, she was alive. After reaching out to emergency services, she was rushed to the Phoebe Putney Hospital in Albany, Georgia with the help of an ambulance. She had no ID with her, therefore the investigators listed her as a Jane Doe. They had hoped it would be a temporary name for her, as they believed she would regain consciousness and inform them about herself and how she ended up in a ditch. Little did they know that she would carry that name for another 37 years after she remained in a coma and succumbed to her injuries on June 1, 1985. The woman did not seem to be sexually assaulted or physically beaten up. She had multiple abrasions to her face, arms, and back, along with a severe head trauma that turned out to be the cause of her death. But the manner of her death remains a mystery to this day. Baker County Jane Doe had apparently slid off a tanker truck about 60 feet above ground and sustained severe blunt force trauma to the head. The possibility of hit and run had not been overruled, but there was no evidence to support any potential theory. Some officers believed that someone could have pushed her off the truck. However, these theories were mere speculations. What happened on May 24, 1985 was just anyone's guess. The injured woman found in the ditch wore a gray t-shirt paired with Britannia blue jeans. It had a laundry tag that read Allison Miles, so initially she was referred to as Allison Miles, but as the case proceeded and no leads were found, she became a Jane Doe. When she was discovered in the ditch, she had white socks and sneakers on. The woman was also wearing a white, blue, and red bandana. There was a pillow by her side that resembled the pillows of hotels. It raised some suspicions of foul play, but there was neither any confirmation nor possible leads. The police were not sure about relating the pillow to her. Though it was found in the same ditch, it had been 20 yards away from her. The search for the identity of Jane Doe began with the Baker County Sheriff's Office. The day she was admitted to the hospital, the police department set out to seek her identity. With the help of GBI, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, her picture from the hospital was released to the public. She was estimated to be a Caucasian woman in her late 20s to 30s with a fair complexion, blue eyes, and brown to dark blonde hair. She had a slim build and weighed approximately 110 to 120 pounds. She measured to be 5 foot 6 inches tall, and her abdomen and buttocks had stretch marks, indicating that she could have been a mother or had a family. Some tan lines were also noticed. The investigators received several calls during the initial days. Some claimed she appeared familiar, while others just wanted to relate and inquire about their missing loved ones. A man called the police claiming that the description sounded like that of his ex-wife. But none of the theories led the police anywhere. During the ongoing investigation, Jane Doe died on June 1, 1985. The medical examiner's office revealed that the cause of death was subdural hematoma secondary to blunt force trauma to the head. There were no signs of attack or sexual assault. She was buried as Jane Doe in Newton City Cemetery. The headstone of her grave read Jane Doe, June 1, 1985, and was taken care of by the community in the hopes that her real family would find her soon. From 1985, over the years, police did everything to find the real name of Jane Doe. They initially checked her fingerprints, but no match was found. So they released her picture to the public, but it did not lead to the case going any further. Several sketches were created and distributed, but every lead frizzled out too quickly. Even after all this struggle, the police did not give up on her. In 2008, the case was assigned to Baker County Sheriff Dana Meade, who was dedicated to finding out the identity of Jane Doe. So he appealed to the GBI to re-inspect her case and find out anything that was possible. Almost 4 years went by. Then, in September of 2012, the remains of Baker County Jane Doe were exhumed. The authorities were seeking samples to test. With the help of a bone fragment, a stable isotope analysis was performed by a private company. Around the same time, in March 2013, Baker County Jane Doe was given profile number UP11097 on the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, NamUs. Nothing of substance followed this step. The isotope analysis looked at the oxygen and strontium isotope ratios to indicate information on the last 10-year history of her drinking water. It was an effort to lead the police to some probable areas where she might have lived. The predictions of the analysis excluded states in the southeast, including Georgia and Florida, the Midwest, and the Mountain West. Besides, the report predicted 12 out of 50 American states for where she might have lived. This did not help the search any further. Finally, in March 2022, a private DNA lab, Othram, was contracted by GBI's Sylvester Regional Investigative Office and the FBI to perform DNA analysis. Othram received the remains of Jane Doe that were exhumed in 2012. It took 10 months to create a DNA profile for Jane Doe of Baker County. After the DNA profiling was done, the results were given to the FBI to carry out genealogical comparisons. In January, the results yielded a high probability that she was Mary Anga Angie Cowan, as her DNA profile matched one of her children. When finally contacted, after 37 years, the family of Mary Cowan welcomed this news with mixed emotions. Born to Davis Owens Dave Hammett and Elizabeth Marie Bess Clark Hammett on 13th December 1965 in Gary, Indiana, Mary Anga Angie Hammett Hall Cowan was the only girl among her 5 siblings: Denny, Drew, Jeff, Tim, and David. She was the second youngest child. David, her eldest brother, died in Vietnam in 1966. The family later moved to Florida. Mary Angie Cowan married Peter Irvin Hall and had 2 daughters. She then married Carl Kenneth Cowan and had 2 sons with him. She was separated from Carl Kenneth at the time of her disappearance. Her children held a warm memory of their mother for decades. They remembered her being fun and silly with them. She took care of all of her 4 children with the utmost love and priority. But one day, everything changed for the Cowan family. The story of Mary Cowan takes us back to May of 1985. It was a warm day in central Florida in Seminole County. A 28-year-old Mary was living with her 4 children. One of her children, Daniel, recalled that they used to live somewhere around a sandy road. He was just 7 years old at the time, so he couldn't remember the exact location or the date of the event, but he remembered his mom's yellow Toyota being stuck in the sand. She couldn't take the car out of it alone, so Daniel asked a friend to come over and help. For some reason, the family friends could not show up that night. However, the family did arrive the next day and saw the car parked outside, still very much inside the sand. But Mary Cowan was nowhere around. So they looked inside the house for her, but she did not answer. There was food on the stove, so they waited for her to come back from wherever she had gone. Things in her house seemed like she had gone out for a minute and would be returning soon. When they didn't hear from her for quite a while, they went around the house looking for her. They searched, then waited for her to come back, then searched again. But there was no sign of her. The family that had come over to help Mary Cowan found her purse and ID on the counter. "We never heard from Mom again," Daniel, Mary Cowan's son, said in a recent interview. They tried filing a report to the local police station, but it was the 1980s and the rules were different than they are now. She was a 28-year-old adult at the time she went missing. Therefore, no official missing persons report was filed. Could this be why Mary Cowan went unidentified for almost 4 decades to come? The 2 stories of a missing mom of Seminole County and an injured woman of Baker County had been separate until now. After 37 years, Jane Doe has finally been identified as Mary Anga Cowan, the missing Florida mom of 4. About 4 decades of tedious probes led the investigators to Mary Anga Cowan. But the lack of leads, witnesses, and evidence resulted in rendering the manner of death as accidental. After 37 years, considering her death accidental, the police are ready to move forward and close the case of Mary Cowan. Daniel and Angelique, the children of Mary Cowan, were contacted. They showed the utmost gratification toward the police and the Newtown community for their instrumental help in bringing their mother home. They were 7 and 10 years old when Mary went missing. In their childhood, Daniel and Angelique, along with their siblings, were told that their mother had abandoned them. But their grandmother, Elizabeth Hammett, always believed that her Angie would come back one day. Unfortunately, Mary Cowan's parents died before she could return home. The family still hopes to bring the remains of Mary Cowan to a shared grave with her mother Elizabeth in Edgewood Greenwood in Apopka. Do you think Mary Cowan's death was accidental? Is there any possibility of foul play in the case of Baker County Jane Doe? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Until next time, stay safe and thanks for watching.